So I had a lot of fun working on my GBS-Control, but one of the kind of frustrating things is the recommendation for the video-out. Yes, this board only supports vga-out, so even with all the improvements of the project, once you want to, connect it to a TV of some kind, you have to buy one of these adapters or something similar. It takes VGA on one side, HDMI on the other, but there's no audio on this board, so you have to get some kind of adapter like this, and it just creates, and it needs to be powered itself, so it just creates this kind of mess of just cables coming out in every which direction. So this is still a work in progress, but here's my kind of proposed solution for fixing this. This does require a little bit of work, but not really, like hardly any money. This is my streamlined approach. As you can see here, looks much cleaner, and I am missing one of the attachment pegs, but again, just for comparison, this is all you need to run it normally, and all of these are required: power, audio, and HDMI. And here's my slimline solution. Basically, I kind of have everything just hardwired in, and I'll show you how to do that in a second. But before we get into that, let's just go ahead and look at some other quick mods I did. I added a power switch and a USB-C port for power. So I'll show you how everything's wired up real quick. On the bottom, we can see we have just a USB-C breakout board, and this has dual 5.1K resistors, and just a simple switch. Like, if I toggle it this way, it cuts power to VCC, which is voltage or positive, and the ground are both wired into the terminal. So here's that terminal you may recognize that has labeled minus and plus. I use that instead of DC jack. Supports 5 volts. So that is wired directly into this USB-C port, or this is wired to the USB-C port and the switch. So when the switch is on, voltage comes through, and it all goes to this terminal. But what I've also done is I've wired this terminal, the power terminal, directly into this adapter. And yeah, this is my electrical tape. This is this work in progress. My electrical tape work is pretty bad, but I think the end result is pretty good. Now you may be wondering, well, what about the audio? Well, we still have a headphone port here, as you can see, but I actually wired the headphone port directly into these audio terminals right here, which I'm going to mount somewhere on the bottom of here. So again, very much work in progress, but when you're done, this is what it should look like. And this isn't a step-by-step. I'm just giving you just general details. And here's what the audio jack. Here's just to show you the audio jack still works. So again, nothing plugged in the back, nothing up my sleeves. Plug in some audio. It's kind of hard to do with one hand, so bear with me. There we go. Left channel. Right channel. And I already tested to make sure they're both right. The nice thing is, by wiring in manually, you can actually use this as a headphone port if you wanted to, because it's, again, hardwired in there. Now, I haven't actually tested adding an extra audio interface to see if this port still works normally, but again, look how clean that is. Again, ignore my electrical tape, this is just work in progress stuff. So I'll show you how it's wired really quick. See if I can get this off with just one hand. Okay. So I will turn this off. So this is the main focus of the mod, slimming this thing down. So if we take a pick or like something like this, we can actually open up this adapter. This is what we required if you want to slim yours down. I forgot where I put my original one that has all the cables hanging out. But so basically what I usually do is I start kind of near the back. And again, this is the output side. So as you can see here are the cables running through. They run to the bottom. Do better with your electrical tape than I did. I usually take some type of opening tool and just kind of pop it in between the headphone jack and this. And you obviously don't want to make sure there's any power running through or anything like that. Let's see if I can, just like that. Just kind of give it a twist. And you can usually loosen it up that way. Made a mistake trying to record this with one hand. Anyway, let me just put the phone down for a second, actually. There we go. Way better. And it will sound like you're cracking it, but if you get these things on AliExpress, they're super cheap. At Amazon, they might be a little bit more expensive. You can usually start by a USB port as well. Just pop this right open. Same way you open like a cell phone or anything else. Just kind of get in one of the corners that you have that seems loose. Guitar pick, pry tool, whatever will do the job just fine. And once you get enough of it opened, you should be able to just kind of take this entire piece off. And again, don't lose these little pegs. I already lost one of them. I'll find it by the time I do my final product, but here we go. All right, so this is what the top of the board will look like. And when you remove the micro USB port, you'll actually have enough space to take all these wires through, as you can see. So let's take this out carefully and not lose it. So here's how I have it wired up. Let's take a look. I removed the micro USB port because I don't need it. And also, like I said, it creates this giant bend. Where did I put it? Yeah, it creates this giant bend where you're like saying, there's no way to really hide this. If you tuck it under, you start fraying the cable and stuff like that. So just this entire jack just takes up way too much space. So what I did was, if you're looking at it with the HDMI port towards the top, there are a few pins once you remove the HDMI port. You don't really need to desolder this. It's so weakly and cheaply in there. So basically, the leftmost terminal is voltage. The rightmost terminal is ground. And it supports 5 volts anyway because it's made for USB. So again, wired it directly to the same thing. And again, this isn't meant to be a tutorial. I hope I mentioned that before. But then I wired directly into the audio jack. So hopefully this will still work for audio input. But the idea was just trying to keep everything as condensed as possible. So let's see if I can focus in. Yeah, this terminal down here, I made that yellow. Let me see if I can find my reference guide for what all these pins are supposed to be. I think I may have closed it. Okay, well, anyway, as you can see, where's my, here we go. So, yellow, ground, green is ground, which is the pin closest to the outside. The second one up is on the right side of this adapter. And this is red, so this is right. And the furthest most one towards the tip is blue. I made that blue, and this is left. So here's again the wiring. And there's a few pegs here that don't actually do anything. I think they're just for keeping the jack actually installed. So that's my wiring, and here's my actual jack. As you can see here, it has a yellow and a red. White and a red, left, right. And this is how it's wired up. As you can see here, you can see this long peg going to blue to show that blue is my left side. Red, short pin, going to yellow. The faceplate is ground. So yeah, that's pretty much how it's wired up. It goes all the way from here directly into the actual adapter itself. And I already showed you it worked, but let's just do it one more time. I'm not going to bother putting everything back together because it's a pain to get the casing back, but I'll show you one more time. Okay, and flip the switch, turn that on, HDMI, and there we go. So yeah, like I said, super compact, takes out a lot of the extra, not really junk, but takes a lot of the extra bulk out of a setup like this. Like I said, everything's still work in progress, so if you have any suggestions, let me know. The rest of this needs to be cleaned up significantly. Like I got my RGBS setup going, which is great, and that's how I'm using this over RGB. Oops, I just bumped the cable. But like I said, this is a start. So if you have any suggestions on how I can, slim down this, maybe that would be nice too. But I have a general idea. So yeah, hopefully you enjoyed this video. Hopefully it helped you get you some good suggestions for low cost mods for your GBS Control. And yeah, thanks for watching.